The Vail housing market is doing very well, and truth be told, that can be said for just about anywhere in the county. My name is Mason, and this is your April 2024 Vail real estate market update. Now, before I get into the numbers specific to our part of town, Vail, I want to give you guys some information on a national level and just an overall view of where the market in regards to housing stands and what we're expected to see in the next few months, even leading into next year. Two of the most common things we hear about in their news are the Fed and what they're going to do and what they say, as well as the rates. Now, with the Fed, the easiest way to give you an idea of their stance on housing and relief is that they've taken a restrictive stance. Now, this is a little unfortunate, and I'm sure there's a lot of factors that go into this that I won't get into right now, but late last year in December of 2023, they pointed to some rate drops and rate cuts that would hopefully give us some relief and allow more buyers to enter the market. Now, since then, the government is going to do what the government does, and they kick the can down the road, and we've really seen no signs of relief when it comes to housing and rates. And although we saw a glimpse of that in February and March, the rates slowly crept back up, and now, as of today, we are seeing rates, conventional loans in the 7%, VA and FHA are in the mid to high 6%. Ultimately, we're not expected to see any sort of rate drops or relief, not that they're going to be major, but we won't see any of those changes come until around August, September, and really into Q4 and Q1 of next year. Now, the next piece that you may or may not find interesting is if you're curious about how the rates are doing, specifically the 30-year fixed rate mortgage, which is the most common one that we see, you want to be following the 10-year yield. When the 10-year is up, that means housing rates are up. When the 10-year is down, you get it, housing rates are down. The 10-year and the 30-year fixed rate follow each other very closely. And although they're not spitting images of each other, that is the number one way to track how the 30-year rate is doing, by following the 10-year yield. Now, with all that boring stuff out of the way, I'm going to give you the numbers. And the average sale price for Vail was $443,000 coming out of March and now into April. This is the same as it was last year, year over year. Now, the median price point came in at $404,000, and that is up 3.6% from the same time last year till March of this year. One thing to note is when we look back, the highest price points that we had ever seen here in the Southeast were during 2021, which were the COVID years. Of course, no one expects those to come back, but we are just on the tip of breaking those price points again. So we've recovered from 2021. We've seen good home appreciation, and now home values being mid 400s to low 400s have now reached the point where we're back at almost peak and record high price points for our area. This next one I think is incredibly important, whether you're a buyer or a seller. I'll get more into that later, but it's days on market. For 85641, the average days on market was 44 days. So a month and change on average, you can expect your home to sell. This was down 19 days from the same time last year. What this tells me is that we're in a busier market, things are picking up, and the spring market is here and in full effect. The median days on market was 18, and this is down 15 days from the same time last year. Now, the implications of these drops means that if you're a seller, expect to see some more competition on your house or just some more activity in general. This is showing that there's been some pent-up buyer demand, buyers are stepping into the market, and sellers, you need to make sure you're putting your best foot forward on your home, because homes are selling on average in 44 days, we'll call it a month to 2 months, and that's pretty darn good from the historic slow we had during the winter. If you're a buyer and you're seeing this, my recommendation to you is that make sure you have all your ducks in a row, because if the home that pops up is one that really checks the boxes for you and your family, you need to get there, do your due diligence, take a look at it, because it's telling me that these homes probably don't last long. No matter what type of market we're in, the objectively good homes that have been well maintained, have some decent upgrades and maybe a view, don't really last long anyways. Like I said in my last video, the spring market is here and homes are doing a lot better and moving a bit faster. The next one that could sometimes be important, but right now is somewhat negligible, it is the percent of list price received for sellers. Now, this is how much money you're making compared to what you list for versus what you sell for. This percent received, sellers on average are making negative 1.17% less on their asking price, so let's just call it 1% off their asking price, which is really negligible. That needle move is very minimal. Now, if they were making 90% or 85% of the list price, that means we're in a heavy buyer's market. If we were in a 100 to 105 to even 110% list price received, that means we're in a strong seller's market. The fact that we're at 99% means that it's a pretty balanced market. sellers are getting just about what they list their home for, and buyers aren't getting a ton of concessions. Now, this one is important. Take what I said for fact and the data that I see, but understand that this one is a case-by-case basis. If there's a home that's been sitting on the market, a home that just maybe isn't as updated as the surrounding homes, it is still open for huge negotiations. I know that personally, I've recently gotten families $20,000 in concessions, $20,000 roofs, $15,000 towards rate buy down or closing costs. So if you're a buyer, understand what home you're pursuing and what leverage you have to get an offer that fits your needs. Now, this next piece is always interesting. These won't really change unless something drastic happens, but it's always good to see the activity, and this is the most competitive price points here in Vail. Now, just like last month and the previous X amount of months, the most competitive price point was homes listed at $300,000 to $400,000. In March, of all the sales in the month, and I believe total sales in Vail was at 45, 20 of those were from $300,000 to $400,000. Safe to say about half of the transactions in homes sold in Vail last month were in this price point. The next most competitive category is, as you might guess it, $400,000 to $500,000. There were 15 total homes sold, and tied for third are homes from $500,000 to $600,000 and $600,000 to $700,000. And of those two categories, each sold 3 homes. Now, taking a step back and looking at overall performance of Vail, there's an interesting zip code comparison chart that I can see, and I wanted to give you guys some insight as to how 85641 has performed when compared throughout the other 39 zip codes in all of Pima County. If you've seen my other Tucson videos, I go over the rankings for Tucson specific zip codes, but this is going to apply strictly to Vail, and this is where Vail ranked amongst all of Pima County. When it comes to total sales, Vail was 5th. That's 85641. We had the 5th most amount of sales for March. When it comes to the medium price, really what I would say is the affordability, Vail is in 16th. So there's 39 total zip codes that I compare. Vail's about less than half. We're still pretty affordable across the board when you look at all of the county. And lastly is days on market. Vail came in 22nd. So first place would be the zip code where homes sell the fastest. And of the 39, Vail came in 22nd. This is spot on to what I'm seeing and feeling as I have listings and I have buyers here in Vail. Homes are moving a little slower than the rest of the county when we look at it comparatively. I want to leave you with this last bit of information. I'm fortunate to be a member of the Vail Chamber of Commerce, and it's ran by a wonderful group of people. This morning we had our meeting for April, and it was a panel of a diverse group of people, but they all dealt with development and housing and a little bit of transportation here in Pima County, Southern Arizona, but a lot of it was focused on the Southeast. Now, although I have a lot of notes that I took, I want to give you this piece of information because it shows the direction that housing is going here in Tucson as a whole and the Southeast. And that is there enough supply to meet demand? I'm sure we've all heard that there's a shortage of houses nationally, and Tucson and the Southeast are not immune from that. We have a significant housing shortage, and there simply isn't enough supply to meet demand. Now, I hope I got these numbers wrong, as it was in a movie theater and it was somewhat difficult to hear at times, but for 2023, when we look at how many homes are built, we look at housing permits. That's new builds, that's custom homes, total housing permits pulled for the county. And last year, Pima County finished with about 3,700 permits. This year, coming out of Q1, we're already at 1,200 housing permits pulled. A little quick math, and that tells me just out of Q1, we're already almost at a third of total housing permits that have been pulled for Pima County. And it's in an effort to meet the housing demand. This panel was well aware of housing affordability and the impact that it's had on home ownership, as well as apartments and rentals, and the need that Tucson and Southeast Vail have for those products. I can tell you it was reassuring to hear that panel's vision, and if you'd like to know more about it, I have a ton of notes and the names that were involved. I just don't remember them off the top of my head, but it was very refreshing and very reassuring to hear that their concerns were our concerns. Specific to Vail, the expansion of Marianne Cleveland, the expansion of housing, protected lands, commercial coming, and just overall growth coming to the Southeast to make a better place for everybody. If you've made it this far, I really appreciate you guys watching. I genuinely love what it is I do. If you have questions or need me to dig a little bit deeper, or you're curious about where your home value is, just shoot me a message. I'll send you anything you need. Thank you guys for watching. I'm Mason in Tucson, and I'll see you in the next video.